Again, if you turn your cell phones on silent, we would appreciate it. And secondly, if you'd like to testify either in the case SU 23-030, if you would sign up with Eileen over here, please, we'd appreciate that. If you're in favor of it or opposed to it, we need you to sign up so we can get your name on the record. So we'll call the meeting to order. Eileen, if you would do the roll call, please, I'd appreciate it.
Commissioner Underwood. Commissioner Montañez.
Present.
Commissioner Lear.
Present.
Commissioner Jimenez. Commissioner Zarges.
Here.
Commissioner Acosta. Chair Zerniak.
Here, can I get a,
Chair, and then
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez, he is on the line.
is he? Mario, can you hear us?
Well, it looks like the only speaker, it's the one here coming out of the podium.
Try it again, Albert.
Can you hear us, Mario?
Yes, sir. Good morning. I can hear
Okay.
you all just
Okay.
fine.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Will.
Any changes or additions, deletions to the agenda? Can I get a motion?
Move the agenda is submitted.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of February 8th, 2024?
I'll move to approve the regular minutes from the regular meeting of February 8th, 2024.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right. Any old business? Staff? Albert?
No old business to report.
All right, so new business, case number SU 23-030.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
845 North Motel Boulevard, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we have a solar project that's up for review, and the owner applicant is R.P. Brewster Limited Partnership and Desert Green Property LLC owners, and Ben Luxembourg is the agent. The location is east of Las Alturas Drive and west of Stern Drive, with Interstate 10 going through the middle in the Bracito Mesquite area. The zoning is T2 Rural and T3 Neighborhood Edge. A special use permit on a 991 acres for a community solar generating facility to be known as the Mesquite Solar Project. This is location map. And this is an aerial of the land uses. This is the site plan of the solar facility. Zoning map. The project proposal, the applicant is requesting a special use permit on 991 acres to construct a 75 MW solar plus 37.5 MW battery system solar generating facility. Last year, in January 2023, this project came up for a zone change when the UDC required a solar project to be located on a T2 zone with a zone change and an SUP. Both were approved by this commission with conditions. The project has been expanded to include properties on the west side of Stern Drive. An SUP is valid for 1 year, thus a new SUP is required for the project. The project was not selected by the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission for incentives. The solar project will serve El Paso Electric's growing load in Doña County for reliable electricity for customers. The project will produce enough energy to power over 93,000 residents annually in Doña County. This is the land use in the north portion of the property. We broke it up. This is the land use on the south portion. And this is Stern Drive facing east. This is Stern Drive facing north and south. And this is the Missionary Ridge Cemetery. The project ends at Missionary Ridge Road, and the cemetery's right there. So we had comments from them that they felt it was going to disturb their cemeteries. And this is from the road. And this is the cemetery. And there's a subdivision between Missionary Ridge Road and Yucca Drive. So I took a picture of the subdivision. It's site-built homes, nice homes, and double wides, ground set double wides in there. So it's a pretty nice subdivision. This is Las Alturas Drive north, Las Alturas Drive south, and this is east, and this is west with the interstate. Let's see, we had general notifications. We had 59 letters of notification were mailed to the property owners within the area on January 30th, 2024, and legal ads were placed in Las Cruces Sun News January 28th, 2024. Signs were posted on the property on a timely manner, and the agenda posted on DAC website. These are the signs on the property. This is the notification map on the north, and this is the notification map on the south. Decisional criteria, potential traffic flows and impacts. The traffic impacts of the project will be different between construction and operation phases. During construction, they anticipate a maximum head count of 300 people and may last 6 to 12 months. Construction will occur 5 to 6 days a week between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Most workers will commute from the local area. Peak hours of traffic to the project will start at approximately 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. All parking will be on-site, and they do not expect any congestion during the construction or operational phases of the project. Upon the commencement of operations, one vehicle will be visiting the site occasionally to conduct standard solar operations and maintenance. Direct access to Stern and Las Alturas shall be approved by permit from New Mexico DOT District 1. A traffic impact analysis may be required. The need for commercial or residential activity, the proposed zoning, this is for the comprehensive plan. We have strategy 1, goal G 2.2, strategy 2, goal G 6.2, goal G 6A 6.2, and strategy 3, and then energy and renewable energies in our comp plan. Potential water and sewer needs, it's unmanned utility, and there's no water or sewer needed, and water will be trucked in during construction. There is currently no existing infrastructure on the site. Environmentally sensitive areas, the project commissioned SWCA environmental consultants to draft a critical issues analysis to investigate the presence of endangered species, wetlands, and cultural resources. No environmentally sensitive species have likelihood to occur within the proposed project area. One state listed endangered plant species, sand prickly pear, is known to occur and will be observed within the proposed project area. The project will pursue species-specific field surveys prior to construction. The project will confer with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services and the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish to determine the best approach to avoiding, minimizing, and mitigating impacts. The report identified NWI, riverine, wetlands, lands, and flow lines which have been avoided in the layout. The project will require any necessary U.S. ACE permits before construction. The impact to the proposed surrounding properties, the project area would be situated on rural vacant land bounded by large tracts of vacant land to the north, south, east, and west. There is one residential subdivision between Yucca Road and Missionary Ridge Road to the west of the project. If fencing is proposed around the perimeter of the facility for security purposes, agricultural fencing 6 feet to 8 feet high and height of 6-inch knots to protect wildlife is recommended. This is recommended to shelter with the subdivision. The project is bounded by Stern Drive on the west and Las Alturas on the east. The solar facility has minimal traffic, minimal noise, or other disturbances. Implementation of best practices. Galehead is committed to implementing best practice management practices. Biological and wetlands field surveys have been conducted to identify potential adverse effects to wildlife, vegetation, and other environmental features. No sensitive species were observed during the field surveys. Prior to construction, a nesting survey may be conducted to measure the occupancy status of potentially suitable nesting burrows and identify safe and appropriate removal measures. A weed management plan will be developed in combination with O&M manager. Disturbed areas will be reseeded with drought-tolerant native plant species for pollination-friendly habitat. Decommissioning plans will prioritize the reclamation of the site back to pre-construction conditions. Prior to construction, Mesquite PIL LLC will submit a SWIP and a grading and drainage plan. The project will consult with Doña County Flood Commission to ensure proper operation and maintenance of the storm drainage and flood control facilities. The project will submit a remediation and decommissioning plan at the time of the building permit submittal. The plan will include the removal of all equipment and the reseeding of disturbed areas, in addition to assurance that financial resources will be available to the fully decommission of the site. Staff analysis. The applicant is requesting a special use permit on 991 acres for a solar generating facility. The current, a special use permit is required for new renewable energy projects in all zones except commercial and industrial zone land. The SUP will only allow for a proposed solar facility on 991 acres. Staff analysis and decisional criteria indicates that the special use permit should coordinate and address the Flood Commission and EBID comments pertaining to the special use permit prior to permitting process in accordance with the decisional criteria and the UDC ordinance. Staff findings. The property is outside of any incorporated municipal zoning authority. Planning and Zoning Commission may receive and hear this and make final determination to approve the conditions or deny applications for special use permits. Public notice requirements have been met as prescribed by the UDC pursuant to consistent with health. Decision criteria for the SUP is consistent with the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the county per the intent of the UDC. Zoning districts, table 5.1, land use classification matrix, a renewable energy facility requires a special use permit in all zones except commercial industrial zones. Staff recommendations. We recommend conditional approval of SU 23030 with conditions, comply with all agency comments, a 6 to 8 foot high perimeter fence, agricultural chain link separating residential areas. A remediation and decommissioning plan shall be submitted at the time of building permit submittal. A sound-based plan ensuring financial resources will be available to fully decommission the site. The solar system will be disconnected from the utility power grid PV modules will be disconnected, collected, and disposed at an approved solar modular recycler or reused, resold on the markets. PV modules will not be cutting-edge technology at the time of decommissioning. They are estimated to still produce 80% of the original electricity output at least at year 25 and add value for many years. All above-ground electrical interconnections and distribution cables and poles shall be removed and disposed off-site. All underground direct buried electrical conduits and conductors within the 48-inch of cover shall be removed by means of at least amount of causing the least amount of disturbance. Abandoned conduit must be sealed or capped in accordance with the best practices. Galvanized steel PV module support and racking systems posts shall be removed and disposed of. Electrical and electronic devices, including transformers, inverters, switchgear, and support structures shall be removed. All components shall not required for return to the Power Authority will be disposed of off-site. Concrete foundations shall be removed and disposed off-site. Fencing and gates shall be removed and recycled. There are no permanent changes to the site. The site can return to productive land after the system is removed. Provide a phasing schedule for construction of the solar farm. And this concludes my presentation.
I have a question. Charlene, can you go back to the map
To the map, yes.
and show us exactly where the cemetery is?
Oh, sure. Can barely see it. It's right here. It's down here. Well, let me go to another map.
Here at the bottom? Okay.
The cemetery is right. Where's my mouse? Right here.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
You see it?
Little
Yeah.
square in there, yeah.
Yes, it's on Missionary Road. It's south of that.
So
Oh. Can't really see it though. It's right here on the aerial.
the cemetery itself is outside of the 991A?
Yes, it's outside of the limits, yes. And the subdivision is this area right here.
Thank you, that's what I had.
Is the flood commission here?
No, they are not here, but they had a meeting, EBID and the Flood Commission and the applicant, they had a meeting on the phone. I couldn't attend that meeting to work out some of the issues that they have on the east side.
Yeah.
They have a dam up there and they have structures and them and fire, they need access to the property. So I wasn't in the meeting, but I'm sure the agent can tell you what they discussed and what,
Let's hear from the applicant.
Okay.
And can you see if we can get the flood commission here?
sure.
Thank you. Eileen, you want to swear him in, please?
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
James Wayne, Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chair.
Morning.
I do have a presentation, but I can we can just speak to it as well. Some clearer maps. I'm James Wayne. I'm from Galehead Development and based out of, oh, he's pulling up, okay. And then just want to arrow keys, got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I work for Galehead Development. I've worked there for 2 years. The company was founded in 2016. We're solely a development firm, and we develop all over the country. But we've been here in Doña County for probably 4 years at this point, maybe 5, working on some solar projects in the county and also in other areas in southern New Mexico.
Can you raise your mic up?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's fine.
Like I said, we founded in 2016, 63 full-time employees now. We have development assets in 26 states. And we work, as I said, all across the country doing solar, wind, and battery as well. A large, very large portfolio of gigawatts of projects all throughout the country, with some here in New Mexico as well. Now, the project is a 75 megawatt project with a battery energy storage system. And although the acreage of the parcels are 900, the project will only be on 480 acres. And so we have a lot of room to move around where the panels are going to be exactly and to avoid certain things. One of the comments about the cemetery, we are avoiding that full southern portion of those 2 parcels there with the current layout. You can see it in the next slide, but we're a full quarter mile away from the cemetery on that southern edge. The project will take 6 to 12 months to build. We're expecting a number of employees. I think the conservative number was 300. I think it's probably going to be more like in between 150 and 200 at the height of that. Galehead is committed to the best practices for wildlife avoidance, for stormwater prevention plans, and for developing projects here in New Mexico. As Charlene mentioned, we have already contracted SWICA, which is an environmental firm, to go out and do surveys of the site for both wetlands and wildlife. The project sort of straddles I-10 there, down by Mesquite, and is going to bring quite a bit of property tax income, as well as employ folks locally, and provide clean renewable power for the county. So here's the map. You can see it's a little small there, but the western side of the highway, the desert green parcels were added. This was originally a community solar project we had just in the northern portion of the property, but we were not selected for the community solar, for the first round of the community solar RFP. So we expanded the project to the southern section there, and you can see that, although it is the 991 acres or whatever of parcel boundaries, it's much smaller than that. And some of the comments around the Elephant Butte Irrigation District, flood zones, and the cemetery, we're avoiding all of that as much as possible. Elephant Butte had some issues with access. They wanted to make sure that they could access all of their dams, and we had a conversation with them 2 weeks ago where we showed them this site plan and they had no issues because they're going to be able to have full access to everything. We're avoiding the Army Corps wetlands, which are directly tied to those dams there, and so we will never be building in a way that they wouldn't be able to access those dams. No recognized environmental conditions. We think it's in a really good spot, and we think it'll generate a lot of good, clean energy. And Yeah, it's just right there next to the highway. Here's a timeline. So we first started landowner engagement about 2 years ago. We are working with EPE on interconnection currently. We were just shortlisted for EPE's request for proposals for projects. So selling the power directly to EPE, going through the interconnection studies there, and hoping to finish those up soon. And then construction in 2026. That is, our ideal timeline. Would, these things kind of change time to time. Supply chain and other things can change the timelines of these things, but that's what we're thinking. Yeah, so happy to answer questions or address comments on the site. Thank you for your time.
Questions? Who owns the property?
The property is owned by Mark Brewster on the east side of the property, and then Desert Green LLC on the west side of the highway.
Anything else? Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Did the flood commission come in?
Yeah, I'm right here. Would you like me to approach or?
Yes, please.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michael Garza, 845 North Montel Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Apologies for not being here sooner.
It's all right.
Is there specific questions that?
I just want to know, in general, so you've had this meeting with the applicant. Did they satisfy all your questions?
So they have not had an opportunity to do so yet because of the stage in the application process. For zone change, any of this administrative stuff, it doesn't really give them the chance to satisfy our comments. Ours will be when the permitting comes in, because we need the technical documents, the engineering and stuff. And so we had communicated to them at this point as part of our review, not to hold up the process, but to say, just so you know, when you get to this permitting stage, these are the things that we'll be looking for, and you won't receive support from the Flood Commission until these are addressed. But as far as the land use or any of that stuff, we don't really have an opposition to it. It's just letting them know what to expect going forward.
Okay, so. The staff recommendations on the conditional approval. Bear with me for a second.
Sure.
I'm trying to find. Yes, please, go ahead. That's fine. I'm trying to find, oh, here, no, that's not it. Comply with all agency comments. That's too general. I thought there was something specific in here about the flood commission.
Billy, can you put up my presentation?
Yeah. No.
So I can give you some context as to what specific conversations we had, if that'd be helpful.
My only question is this, or my comment is this. What I'd like to do in the motion is just include the flood commission's recommendations as a condition. And I want to make sure that that satisfies your concerns.
Yeah, and essentially just building anything below the dam requires proper disclosures, and we have to, whoever the dam is owned and operated by the county or EBID or whoever it may be, we have to have sufficient access, from the frontage road up to the dam. So any power poles can't obstruct the maintenance road, or obviously the dams have controlled release outlets. There's flow paths that I don't want maintenance vehicles driving over, things like that. And so, yeah, our recommendation can be summarized as just work with the flood commission throughout permitting to make sure all technical comments are addressed.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Anybody else? Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience, Eileen, that wanted to speak?
Yes, sir. The first is Nicole Miller.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Nicole Miller, 1400 Yucca Road.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, good morning.
Morning.
We live on Yucca Road. My grandparents have been there since the early 70s, and we've been out, you know, in the farmland, not disturbed and whatnot. And my one question to this gentleman would be, would you live in front of a solar panel farm? You would. You'd be okay with that? Okay. Well, you know, most of us, and if there's any neighbors here, we like being out and, you know, not being bothered. I ask you all, would you all care to have a solar panel farm right in front of walking out your door? As far as me personally, our house, literally our front door would be facing these solar panels. They mentioned earlier that they've done research on how it would affect the agriculture or the animals, the species. Just doing minimal research online, there's a solar panel farm in California. Within the first year that they were opened and everything was going, over 6,000 birds died. So I find it very hard that you say that it would not affect. I mean, simple windows in our homes. How many times have we seen where birds fly, you know, into the glasses? That would affect our environment. Roadrunners, New Mexico, we're big on our state bird as a roadrunner. Every morning, I see at least 2 to 3 roadrunners running down through Stern and running down through Yucca. I find it, again, very, very hard that there would be no disturbance to that, especially being from Las Cruces in New Mexico and it being such a, you know, a symbol for us. Being also a neighbor from there, the water. I know mention about the flooding and how that would affect the roads, whether the county, the city, and whoever's in charge of that on Stern and on Yucca, even well before Yucca was fully paved from the original 7 houses that were on that road to Stern, flooding is absolutely terrible. So I imagine they will have it benefit them to make sure the panels are not destroyed or damaged. Where does that leave us as the neighbors of the running water? I personally have gotten stuck on Stern with water, and it's ruined our vehicles. And even when they come, the county or the city, like I said, to put rocks and put their cones and try to relift the dirt, there's always, every rain, there's always damage. And I'm sure if you guys look on your research and y'all stuff, when you guys have crews come out and see, there's always, always issues with water. We're an agricultural area. There's tons of pecan trees, people that do farming. My minimal research, again, just looking on surface level, I'm not an expert by any means on solar panels, but what is out there can leak as far as like the radiation and lead if any of these things are broken. What does that do to our agricultural soil that initially goes underground and can affect the trees that are surrounding areas? The other thing is, how far will these things be from our houses? You know, again, I ask the same question, who would really want to honestly say that they'd want to live in front of a solar panel farm? Property values, I doubt anybody was going to want to live. They may be, and I noticed on his map, a lot of these solar panel farms are up on the East Coast and West Coast, minimal in the middle. East Coast are trendy cities, and I get it, maybe the energy efficiency in that, but in this area, it would totally, totally diminish our values of our homes having this solar panel farm. And, you know, again, doing minimal research. We live in a city where it's very hot, and we also have high winds. What are going to be the repercussions on how they take care of that? I mean, things go flying when we have our 80-mile-an-hour winds and that. What does that do to us in the surrounding areas? My grandmother, for example, the gentleman's here that represents for the cemetery, she is buried there. They may stay away from it a little bit farther than the other houses of where they're gonna put these panels. But again, the water, we haven't, as neighbors and as surrounding area, we have not been given the information to see how does that affect the graves and all that. Just, again, why us? Why here? And I mean, I hope you can understand this area is beautiful. I would hate to see desert be destroyed. And our view, again, instead of the mountains and the beauty of the desert itself, to just be solar panels. I noticed that on the Las Alturas side, there aren't very many homes, anything being, I mean, you know, in their way as far as that. Why come up so close to where there is neighborhoods? You know, those are some of our concerns that we've shared as neighbors and people. And, you know, they all expressed when we went around, and I would like to, if we can submit as an exhibit or whatnot, we have signatures from some of the owners of the homes that they were sent the letters, that they are in disagreement of it. Some of them are elderly, some of them work. So again, a 9 o'clock meeting for those were like, hey, I can't just, you know, get off of work. Let me see here, I wrote my notes. I think that touches most of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Miller, you know that you lived on Yucca Road. How
I'm
far?
sorry?
You know that you lived on Yucca Road, correct?
Yes, uh-huh.
How far is that from the proposed?
Literally, I can take about 10 steps out our front door, and that's where it's proposed. So you have them, I have a, let me see if I have the
No, that's
letter
fine.
here in front of me. I can show you where it's at.
No, that's fine. Question for staff. Thank you very much. So I'm looking at the map. So
I can tell you what number we are on the list that they sent us. Give me a second. If you see number 20, may I approach?
yes, absolutely.
So we're listed as, on their list, number 25. And if you look on their paper, right here, sir, number 25.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Albert, excuse me, see, Albert, can you bring up the map of the panels, though, not the property?
So
I'm
what, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I guess what I'm a little misled here, I'm led to believe in this presentation that all the panel activity is on the east side of Stern and not the west side of Stern.
Based on the map, what they're
incorrect there?
on the blue.
Okay.
Where the panels are. He had a map, there was an aerial of the panel construction. There, that's it.
So there will be panels on both sides?
Yeah.
Both sides, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I did notice on, I mean, not that, I don't know if it makes a difference, the two big owners of these properties, on our side, as far as on Yucca and Stern, on the west side, that would be on the map. There's another portion of property that if you hit on Harper, I noticed that there is still a sign for sale. So whoever that owner is, I don't know if they're opposed or not. But there's also another house, I don't have the address on me, right at the corner of Stern and Yucca. She's been there 20-plus years. Her name is Sarah. She's literally going to be a compound of solar panels around her because for the longest, she's always been right on the outskirts by herself.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Who's next?
Teresa A. Garcia. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Teresa A. Garcia, and I'm currently on also Yucca Road, and then raw property on Teak that would affect these panels also. And I'd like to submit these for,
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under
Yes.
penalty of law? Thank you.
and good morning to all of
Good
you.
morning.
And I'd like to submit these for, there were some elderly parents, like my daughter said, and also they weren't able to come because of death in the family. So I don't know who I would turn this in for them to be considered. And I guess it's a ditto of what my daughter just presented. Very highly opposed, and especially also for the respect of the cemetery.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Rose Martin.
Eileen, say it again, okay?
Rose Martin. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Rose Martin, 1325 Artesia Court, Messiah Park.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I don't think I could have put my concerns and complaints any better than the young lady who spoke first. We are a farming community out there. It's nice, peaceful, quiet. We don't want, the word I'm looking for, we don't want people like this coming in and messing up our land. We also are concerned about the flooding in the area. I don't personally live on Yucca, but I have to drive up and down it. And the area between Roswell and Stern Drive on Yucca gets washed out every time there's any kind of a rain. Stern Drive is also washed out all the time, closed, and they're doing repairs on it all the time. I have no idea what this construction will do to the area. Also, I don't understand why the panels have to come up right against our property line. I won't be personally right up abutted to it, but I will only be separated by one home. And we have a beautiful view of the mountains out there. We have a lot of wildlife that comes and goes. And I would hate to see any of this disrupted if it wasn't necessary. And looking at their map, there are acres and acres and acres of land that could be used for these solar panels that wouldn't affect us in right where we're living. I'm not against solar. I think we need to do more in regards to renewable energy. But I guess I'm kind of selfish that I don't want it to affect me to get that, especially if there's other areas that it can be placed in. So I would really like to have everybody's consideration before they go ahead with the project, especially bringing it so close to where we live on the west side of I-10. Keep it on the east side where there's no homes. Nobody you're going to bother out there if it's on the other side of the interstate. That's all I had to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kenneth Tazala. Good morning.
Morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Kenneth Tazala, 1320 Artesia Court.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. I've got a question for the developers. Are these solar
Excuse me,
panels gonna be
excuse,
tracking-
sir? Speak into the
Okay.
mic, okay?
I'm sorry. Are these solar panels going to be tracking the sun? Okay. You've got them on both sides of the highway. And 10 goes basically north-south. These things are going to be tracking the sun. What's the effect on the highway drivers?
Okay. We'll ask him.
Okay. The other thing is, what kind of interference is there going to be? We're going to have transformers, all this electronic equipment around. What kind of interference are we going to have any giant humming or something like that from these big transformers that are going to be around?
We'll ask.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's no one else on the list.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Can you come up and respond?
All right, I was taking some notes, so I have comments. Yeah, James Wayne again, from Galehead Development. Appreciate the response here and the community involvement. So I'll just take this from the start. The visual aspect, as a condition of approval, we're happy to include a vegetative screening plan around the south side for the cemetery, around the local folks who live in the area. We're not going to go right up against the property lines. We have a 50-foot setback from that, and we're happy to include in that 50-foot setback visual screening for those. The reason we're on both sides of the highway is the 115 kilovolt line, the EPE line, Vado to Salopec, is on that side of the highway. You can see it, it's not very clear in this map here, but there's a red line there that just sort of abuts the panels there, but that's where we have to connect to the EPE's grid.
So how do you connect the panels on the east side to that?
We'll apply for a New Mexico Department of Transportation easement over the highway.
Okay.
Moving down, contamination. These panels are steel and glass. There are very little to no contaminants in these. There is some confusion because panels back in the early 2000s were made of cadmium telluride. They're called thin film panels. These are not the panels that we're going to be using for the project. They're silicone panels, which is glass, sand. The contamination, I can't point to a specific study, but there's lots of studies out there that there's no contamination factor. Working with SWCA they've been out on the site to survey for natural and biological features, including animals. We're happy to install fencing such that the animals can get through, but people can't. As the flood commissioner said, we're working with them, and we're going to be putting together a really good SWIP and stormwater plans such that any effect that the project has would be positive to the current flow of the water. We would avoid any, and we don't want the panels to get flooded or damaged in any way either. So, it's in our best interest to create a flood plan that would benefit the area and control the water flow. The panels themselves are steel I-beams in the ground, and then 3 or 4 feet above that, pieces of essentially windows. They're not impervious. They don't impede the water flow. And we're, as I said, we're going to have to work with the Flood Commission to make sure that we address all their concerns. One of the concerns on there was the wires and underground digging. We're going to go above ground as much as possible. You can put the wires right along the racking of the panels, and to avoid any disturbance in the outflows, arroyos, and things like that. Okay, what else?
What about the effect of the panels tracking the
Yeah.
sun and their effect on the highway?
Right, glare. Yeah, so this was definitely a concern for a long time, but it's been proven. The FAA and the Department of Transportation, the National U.S. Department of Transportation has said that there's no glare issues. We don't want glare. Glare means that the light that's hitting the panels is not getting absorbed by the panels. These are meant to absorb light as much as possible. Testimony from pilots. I was at a meeting in Deming. A pilot came and said, there's absolutely no glare from these panels. We have them in Massachusetts all along the interstates there, and there's been no issues with glare or anything like that. They're meant to absorb light.
And what about noise
Yep.
from the electrical equipment or interference?
Yeah, so the inverters will sound like an air conditioner. And, you know, I mean, if you're close to an air conditioner, you can hear it running, but they're going to be far enough away from houses that you won't be able to hear anything. A solar field is a very good neighbor. We're very quiet. Most times people don't visit, you know, unless they're coming in to do some vegetation management underneath the panels or to clean the panels from dust. But, you know, we're very quiet and not disturbing once we're built.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Did I hear you right? You said the height of the panels was going to be like 4 feet?
The lowest portion. So the panels themselves, the racking,
Right.
where the steel beam is, where the panels are on top of that, where they go, that'll be about 3.5, 4 feet. And then the panels go like this
Okay.
throughout the day.
And how big is an individual panel?
6 feet.
6 by 6 square?
No, at 6 by 4. I don't have this.
Okay.
The panels change pretty frequently, but yeah, the maximum height of the panels is likely to be 8 to 10 feet, if they're as vertical as possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So what about, I'm just curious, as we look at the property maps versus the panel maps, why you're not using the northern portion of that eastern property?
The skinny portion up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they, on the biological survey that SWICA did, there are prickly pears there, and so we're avoiding that for that reason.
And this portion in the middle,
Yep.
why, is there a reason why we're not using the back half of that parcel?
There's slope there, and it would require grading, and we're also just trying to avoid dam washouts and wetlands.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have another question.
Yes.
You mentioned grading. Will you have to do any grading in order to put these panels in?
You know, without like a full topographical survey, I don't know exactly how much, but there will likely be some grading.
Okay.
We try to minimize it. It's expensive, so we try
Right.
to minimize as much as possible. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, there was a dust concern as well. Happy to put together a dust control plan, you know, it would only happen during construction. The project wouldn't cause dust during operation, but, you know, we're happy to put together a plan where we wet the ground and make sure that the dust doesn't come up.
Thank you.
There was another concern about the wind, high winds and things like that. This has all been tested in, you know, extreme situations where these panels can handle that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to entertain a motion. At least we can get it on the floor.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay.
Based on findings of fact and staff analysis, I'll move conditional approval of case SU 23-030 for the 991-acre solar generating facility to be known as the Mesquite Solar Power. And that would comply with all the conditions as laid out on the thing. There's enough here, I don't want to have to enumerate them all
Yeah.
if I can get away without doing
All the agency comments.
all agency comments.
Can I get a second? Remember, this is not a approval. This is not a vote. This is just a motion to put it on the floor.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Eileen, did you get it? Mario, are you still with us?
Yes, sir, Commissioner, I am.
Do you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Just so everyone knows, that was Commissioner Jimenez.
Yes.
Um,
Mr. Chair, just the only comment that I really have, this is Yeah, and to address testimony given this morning, this is currently zone T2, am I correct? And T3. Which, I'm sorry, we're going T2 and T3, which does allow for single-family residential site-built homes, mobile homes, farmhouses, and agricultural buildings. T3, low-density single-family residential with some mixed uses, home occupations, outbuildings, parkways within thoroughfares, et cetera. So I would see based on testimony given today by the applicant especially, I would see a bigger land impact on uses that are already allowed in T2 and T3 than I would with the proposed special use permit. And that's the only comment that I have at this point. Thank you.
Anything else? Eileen, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Zarges,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Montañez,
Yes.
Chair Zerniak.
I'm going to vote yes. And my primary reason, we've had experience with solar farms in Doña County. The one that I'm most familiar with is the one on Choya Road. And from what I can see, the solar farms are a very good neighbor. They're quiet, they're clean. People don't seem to bother them, and for the most part, people don't even notice them. And they do provide an important source of power for the county. And I'm sure that people in this area, since it's a community solar farm, they'll be able to benefit from it. We don't know yet whether the state will approve it, though. So it could be many years before this is ever developed. So thank you very much. Who's handling the comprehensive plan, the CRUA ETZ zoning?
That will be me. We'll just give a few minutes for the room to clear.
So let me just, if there's anyone here that wants to speak to the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance for the CRUA area, make sure you sign up, okay?
Okay, well, we can get started on our item. Basically, we have the same PowerPoint for those of you that were here during our work session last week. Just to summarize, the BOCC amended an existing JPA with the City of Sun and Park that created the CURA and established the ETZ authority. This amendment in part abolished the ETZ and vested all land use authority in the CURA service area outside of the city limits to be regulated by the UDC as being the applicable ordinance within this area. Last month, the City of Sun and Park, they made changes to that agreement. They had to go back to the BOCC, requiring approval of the amended JPA, and with the changes that were made by the City of Sun and Park, and then those changes were approved earlier this month. So basically, it's, the road is laid out for moving on forward with adoption of the UDC, the zoning map, and the comprehensive plan in the CURA area. So we hosted a couple meetings, public information meetings down there in Sun and Park. Those were on February 6th and February 7th. And then today, it's the first public hearing for the recommendation of adoption by the P&Z to the BOCC for the EDC. We'll have a second meeting on March 14th and potentially the item going in front of the BOCC on April 9th. And then just some of the input that was received during that meeting on February 6th. We had about 14 people attending. Some of the questions that were asked and concerns included, what are the land uses allowed under the existing zoning compared to the EDC? Why is the county taking the land away? What are the water and wastewater conditions in the future? There were concerns about manufactured homes being allowed under D1L. One resident liked their T2 zoning since it allowed for farmland. They had questions on future transportation routes, especially the east to west connections. And then one of the developers down there, Dan Brown, likes the old zoning of PUD 1 because it allowed mixed uses. And he would like to have a mixed use zone apply to his development and his property. On February 7th, we had 5 constituents attend. Most had the same questions from the night before about land uses. Mr. Brown also attended that meeting. Marty Pillar was there, and he was representing a developer owning land in the new urbanism district. He's working on basically a survey that's going to be depicting the land uses that are being called out on that new urbanism district. That way, they can be appropriately mapped on the zoning map. He had comments on setback requirements for garages and utility easements, and it involved front setbacks on residential housing developments. So this is the proposed zoning map. I only made 2 changes to this map since last week when we had our work session. One of the changes involved, those 2 properties right here, they're being called out as T2. We went ahead and gave them the I2 because one, they've already gotten a zone change approved by the CRUA board for that, and they're currently working with the county for a land swap on these 2. So we're just basically getting them ready with the appropriate zoning. The second one was that abandoned railroad right-of-way. It is an actual parcel out there, so because it is under the care of BLM, we just went ahead and gave it a federal designation. I believe we had it as a T2 before, and now it just has a federal designation on it. I just went ahead and printed out a cheat sheet of what we have under the existing code and what's out there right now. Just some of the most zone changes that we're dealing with. Yeah. But basically on there, these existing zoning districts, they're what are allowed currently under Chapter 250. Which is, the old land use and zoning code. So under the old zoning districts, there's a lot of you're going to see a lot of PD, performance district, out there. And then just to recap on what the performance district was, basically, if you had a use that wasn't single-family residential, if you wanted to go commercial or industrial, the code called out for an engineered site plan that could be administratively approved. So we basically just sent it out for agency reviews, and if everything checked out, then you pretty much had that use allowed. Notification was only in the form of putting signs on the property, and I believe a legal ad. I don't even think letters were required back then for those non-residential uses. If there were a higher intensity industrial use, then possibly they would have to apply for a PUD type 2, and that would that did require a public hearing for site plan approval. But those were the most intense industrial uses, I'm talking about, possibly batching plants, rock quarries, those kinds of uses, did require, some sort of public hearing. And then everything else that was in PD was pretty much just map zone already. It had their CRs for residential, their CCs for commercial, and the CIs for industrial.
So Albert, on that parcel land out to the far west, how was that zoned, the I-3? How is that zoned under the old zoning?
I believe most of that it's going to be PD.
Oh, it was PD.
I believe so.
So, we talked about this before. So if most of that land was PD, why would we give that a higher, more intense zoning than the rest of the land?
And we kind of touched base a little bit about that on the, during the work session,
Right.
5 years ago, when we were talking with all the, the major land owners out there. This was one of the requests by Chris Lyons. I believe Chris is here, so he can come up here in a little bit and give us a little presentation
Okay,
about what his vision was at the time for.
okay, before we do that, Commissioner Zard just had a concern about that MU district. That's the only place on the whole map where we've used the MU zoning. Is there some reason why we're doing that?
I believe that corner right there is currently zoned PUD1, which is mixed use. So it did allow for a mix of residential and commercial. There's other PUD1, I believe, on this side right here. There might be some PUD1 on this area. And once again, taking some of the, still including some of the input from 2018, that was like approximately about 700 acres out there that were zoned PUD1. And a lot of the residents were concerned about that, not being able to predict what exactly was going to go in there. So that's one of the reasons why we went ahead and then just gave it a D1L, which is a single-family site build.
What about the MU?
At this point, it wasn't being considered.
Go back to your map that shows that parcel. So would that be more appropriately zoned C1? It's right on McNutt.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the corner of a McNutt and Country Club. I mean, it could be C1, if that's a recommendation by the commission. But PUD.
And the D3 is a higher density residential, right?
That's correct.
Bill, what? Did you want to comment?
Yeah, my concern with that is the MU zoning, the STR, and that's like taking a step backwards from the UDC of what we did. And I guess I don't understand why we're making this special exception in this area of the county, as opposed to what we've done everywhere else in the county with the UDC.
Do we know what the zoning is on the other side of the road? That's Sunland Park, right?
That's Sunland Park.
Do we know what that zoning is?
Commercial. I mean, that's where you have gas stations and a couple of medical offices.
So one of the comments from the public meetings was that people were uncomfortable with the idea of not knowing what might go into a zone. Isn't that exactly what would happen here if we put an MU on it?
On this corner right here?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on this one here, they already have PUD1, and it does allow for mixed use currently. So PUD1 does allow for residential and commercial.
Do we know who owns that property? Or is it a mix of owners?
There might be about 3 lots out there.
It just seems like it would be better zoned commercial.
Yeah,
Or the D3. I mean, make it compatible with everything that's already, but you're saying it's already a mixed use.
It's already a mixed use. We already do have a proposal on that property. We do have a developer that wants to go in there and create, and this is all just gonna be done through a building permit, but it's just a commercial use for offices, maybe a restaurant on site, which would be allowed under the mixed use or commercial.
Okay.
Isn't there cannabis there already, Albert?
Janine, can you, what?
I was under the impression that we also issued a cannabis license at that location.
Yeah, that property's not completely vacant. There are already existing uses on there. Offices, there is a cannabis retail facility there. I know there was like a little restaurant there, but it changes name like every year.
So what's the objection to just making it commercial?
I don't have any objections to that. We're just trying to, for this property in particular, we're just trying to keep the mixed use option open.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, to kind of follow up on what he's talking about? I guess my question would be, what's unique about this property that would make it an MU rather than other properties that are similar that are not zoned that way?
No, I mean, like I said, I mean, MU it's just the closest similar use or zoning designation that we have to PED 1 for this property right here. That's the only intent. I don't think there's any objections from staff if it was just all completely commercial.
I'm just going by what we heard at that public hearing, that people wanted certainty as much as possible on the parcels.
I don't think there was really any concern about this property in itself.
Right.
I think it's, you know, the other large acre tracts that are next to existing subdivisions that might have, that those were the ones that they were concerned about. This one, like I said, I mean, it's not vacant. There are already existing commercial uses on there. So I don't think staff would object to a C1 recommendation.
Okay. Well, I think that would be my suggestion here. The other question I had, you have that orphan parcel at the extreme east end of Sunland Park. What did you do with that?
You know, those were not part of CRUA.
I'm sorry?
That's not part of CRUA. That's actually in the county.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. So those are still going to remain T2 or T3. I forgot what the zoning was.
All right.
I like that.
It's not part of crew.
I like that term, orphan parcel.
Maybe you ought to suggest that Sunland Park annex it. Talk to the property owner.
Or Texas.
All right.
The new urbanism district, this one here, like I said it before, I mean, it's been, you know, in the books for many years. By adopting, you know, the ordinance for the new urbanism district, by just creating an appendix, I mean, we're basically, you know, acknowledging that a lot of work has been put into it. We don't really want to mess with it. We just basically want to create its own separate appendix, you know, so they can move on forward with their plans. I think you know, trying to give it a you know, some kind of use zone designation would probably create more issues for the applicant. You know, they already have an established ordinance that they're trying to follow. They already have their zone designations established as well, and they are in the process of you know, of going through the subdivision process right now. So by just keeping it, by acknowledging that it's there, by creating an appendix, you know, staff felt that was the easiest route to take in this case. Just create an appendix just for this district only. And during the work session, we kind of heard from you know, Marty Pillar as well. Those are just some of the uses that are already there within that ordinance. And basically, it's just a mixed-use commercial and residential.
What does limited non-residential uses mean? Bottom line.
We're at
STR2.
STR2.
Gas station, maybe?
We would have to look at their land use matrix. I believe they also have one in there, right, Janine?
That's a pretty generic statement.
Could be an accessory dwelling. Yes. Yes, can we get a little bit more clarity on those two?
Limited in both SGRs.
I think the intent of that statement is basically saying, hey, when you look at the land use matrix, there might only be a few options available under that zoning designation that are gonna fall under the commercial category.
It's probably more like personal services that would be permitted in the residential zone.
Yeah, I really don't see, the only thing I see is the bed and breakfast. Dwellings, open space, park, public civic use, and schools. None of those would really, except for even the bed and breakfast, which is limited to eight rooms. No, that's under STR 2. Other than that, I don't so this is the land use matrix for those uses. STR 1 doesn't really allow any commercial use. Public use, but not commercial use. And the only one that, under STR 2, is an 8-room bed and breakfast.
Yeah, so the way I'm looking at it, I mean, even though that statement's there, what regulates the allowed uses is gonna be that matrix right there. That's basically what it's gonna allow.
So why would you even put that in there?
I'm not sure. I mean, that document was drafted a long time ago.
Do we have to accept the categories in total, or can we edit them?
I mean, we're already editing them by, I mean, we heard from Marty how he wanted the setbacks changed on one of the zoning designations. So, I mean, I think we're allowed to amend those documents, even if, if it's striking out that language on an STR 1, that last sentence. I think that's something that's doable.
Christine, did you want to comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I did want to just, I wanted to say that, yes, you're welcome to make any modifications that you think are appropriate. The only thing that we would like to ensure is that we maintain the integrity of those zoning districts. What we don't want to do is reduce any uses that are currently allowed or what would be considered downzoning of those particular districts. Because they do exist currently, and we don't have anything in our code that matches exactly what's allowed in those particular districts. But modifying the language to be clearer or to actually reflect what's allowed, that's definitely appropriate, and we can make those changes now.
So would we have to leave those statements in there to allow open space, a park, or schools?
I mean, not necessarily. If it's not reflective of what's actually allowed, then we can definitely make those changes to the descriptions.
Janine, did you want to add anything?
Matrix, under conditional uses on page 19. Exhibit 7.3, conditional use matrix. The tienditas are listed, which are, I believe, small commercial enterprises. Right? I was trying to find that definition.
So an auditorium is allowed in a residential district?
All the way across.
Where's that coming from?
Chris, were you involved in the drafting of the new urbanism district ordinance? In the master plan?
I don't understand how this isn't a step backwards.
Yes, these were uses that were proposed in the Verde master plan, Mr. Chair.
Chris?
He's gonna come and get sworn in?
No, you don't swear him in, it's legislative.
Not swear him in, okay.
He can say anything he wants.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There are some schools that are located within that STR1 area. It's reflective of what Verity wanted to do with the master plan community on that acreage. I know the BOCC approved it back in 2009. It started in 2005. It was amended over time. But then the downturn hit and it never got built. But it is a really good plan, and that zoning, I guess, takes into consideration what was planned at the time. It also is consistent with, I forget the chapter in the Sunland Park Code.
19,
So
chapter 19.
Chapter 19. So it's consistent with Sunland Park. I think that's a key piece on the whole property, because that was really the master plan community design that is very attractive to companies that want to look at our area. They don't just need homes and subdivisions. They want a master plan community. They want a town center. This takes care of that. They want the schools there and hiking, biking trails to the schools. And that was all done in detail back in 2009 when it was approved by the BOCC. So, and probably a couple $1 million were spent to get that plan in place. So it's very important that stays in place, and we don't go backwards. If they can improve on it, if the current landowner can improve on it, fantastic. But when it takes that much effort, time, money to put that in place, it would be a shame to go backwards
Okay.
on that piece of land. So that's why the auditorium.
That's why the auditorium.
And Chair, I mean, if there are any specific concerns or changes that you guys want to entertain, I mean, for sure, we can take a note of those and forward them over to to Marty or any one of the other property owners, just to get their input. And then hopefully they can show up to the next PNC meeting and then just give us, their thoughts on the proposed changes.
So these are special use permits anyway? Conditional uses?
Really,
And they're small commercial uses that are less than 650 square feet in size.
But you're requiring basically a special use permit for these
According-
uses?
Yes, according to that matrix that I pointed out. And they're typically located on corner lots and within activity centers. And they say they're recorded on the final plat.
Well, we can't do anything with this today, so this was just a hearing.
okay. All right.
And then did you look at the definition of auditorium?
No.
Okay, so it's defined as a large room to accommodate an audience in a building such as a school or theater, or an outdoor or indoor facility to hold public meetings or performances.
By definition, Mr. Chair, we are sitting in an auditorium.
By definition.
By definition, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then just the last couple of slides, I mean, we did look at the border area economic development strategy. Basically, the key takeaway was the complex dynamic in the border region given the extremely fragmented jurisdictional authorities residing in the area, as a result, many of the recommendations set forth in that plan are for those other authorities. You know, we talked about ongoing, you know, county projects, DOT projects in the area, you know, expansion of the Santa Teresa Port of Entry, many projects that are being administered by different jurisdictions. You know, under that plan, you know, there was that planning recommendation that talks about the original Verde Master Plan, and that the crew and county should re-examine the plan and amendments to ensure that the border area can support a sustainable balance of residential and industrial uses in relation to transportation system improvements that can sustain growth. The DOT's border master plan finalized around 2021. And, you know, that one was largely focused on the tracking, scoring, ranking of individual projects in the region. And then, of course, ongoing projects from county engineering. And just to recap, you know, some of the points that we talked about last week, you know, I think one item that's still pending, it's going to be that C2 and I2 zone on McNutt and Alluvial Lane that was kind of like towards the north boundary of the Kerr area, that being next to a T2 zone. I don't think we've addressed that yet. Comparing land use matrices, UDC versus Chapter 250. The I3 on that western Kura boundary, which Chris can talk about that and, you know, see what his vision was or is for that area. We already looked at the abandoned railroad right-of-way. We've already gave it that federal designation. We also want to point out that last Friday we did talk with the state land office with some of the reps. They just wanted to talk about what the overall effort was. You know, they were concerned that they had a federal or state designation on the properties, and basically we just explained to them that, you know, basically all that is just a placeholder. You know, it's just letting us know that it is state land, and, you know, we don't have any jurisdiction over state properties. So, you know, they were pretty okay after, you know, we had that discussion. We took care of that T2 to I2 on those triangle-shaped properties. And then we heard from Marty Pillar about his proposal to reduce setbacks for garages 5 feet from 30 to 25, and to increase the utility easements from 12 to 15 feet. So with that said, you know, that's basically, you know, what we have for today for this agenda item. Chris is here, so maybe he can talk a little bit more about that I3 designation there. But staff stands for questions right now.
Yeah, I guess that new urbanism district just seems to be a step backwards from all the work we did. I don't know. I just don't know.
So you've reached the conclusion that the UDC zoning, all the categories, won't allow the same kind of uses and mixed uses that the master plan allows. Chris, one of the things we were talking about was that the master plan is actually could be an overlay on top of the UDC zoning. In other words, if a master plan usually sits on top of some kind of zoning district, it's not zoning per se, right? And the master plan guides the zoning underneath. But it sounds like the zoning, it's hard to believe, because certainly the transect zoning was intended to be mixed use. But from what I've heard so far, you don't think that it fits that way.
I mean, it's not going to fit exactly. I mean, STR1 residential, yeah, I mean, we have a couple of residential zones, but are they going to be the exact same thing? Probably not. You know, I'm just going to go back and kind of repeat what Chris said, you know, that there's already so much invested in this to change it or basically to start from scratch.
No, I don't I'm not recommending that. I'm just trying to understand whether or not the UDC zones fit the master plan.
Yeah, we're not gonna find an exact match for it. Can it fit? Can we make it fit? Sure, but I'm sure we're probably losing or gaining, some of the allowed uses and the standards for sure are gonna be a little bit different.
Dan, anything? Steve? Mario, are you still with us?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I am.
Did you have any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. While I'm at it, I'm going to recognize Mr. Eustace. Charles, thank you for coming. We appreciate your attendance, and we also appreciate your comments through emails. We have anything else?
I have a question for the chair. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have, so I just wanted a clarification. Are we to think of the master plan as sort of like the philosophy and the zoning is the implementation of that philosophy? Is that kind of the way it works?
Well, if I understand staff's intent, they're both here. It's actually a combination, which is actually pretty unusual.
The master plan is actually an amendment to the comprehensive plan. And so it's a more detailed plan for that particular area of the county. And so it doesn't expire, and it's still in place. I wasn't here, obviously, at the time that it was adopted or when these zoning districts were created. But those zoning districts were created based on the master plan, and the standards there were intended to reflect what the master plan dictated. And so the master plan is the policy document from which the ordinance was designed.
So, wait, don't go away. So should we be considering, when we do this at a public hearing for a decision and a recommendation to the BOCC, should we state that the master plan is an amendment to the comprehensive plan and the UDC?
Well, it's an amendment to the comprehensive plan, only the master plan itself, because it's adopted by resolution, whereas the ordinance is adopted with an ordinance, so it's two different approving documents. And it's a different type of policy document than the ordinance.
So my question is, do we need to do both?
No.
No? Is the master plan, this master plan is not part of our comp plan, though?
Well, it's a little bit confusing, but it was adopted by the BOCC and it continues to be in effect. So when we approve the comprehensive plan, we also approve any amendments to the plan that are in effect. And so we'll make sure that that language is in there when we present both of those items to the BOCC. They will be also approving the comprehensive plan for that particular area of the county since it's not currently in place.
Okay, but it won't, this is my only concern here, that master plan doesn't stand separate from the existing, from the 2040 plan. In other words, you don't, unless you were saying that this plan, that the master plan was, it's almost like a community, it is a community.
Right. It's more of a study area plan, but the way they're approved is as an amendment to the comprehensive plan, because the comprehensive plan is always your foundational plan.
Right.
And anything that you approve has to be in conformance with it.
So so then are you saying that's already done?
Yes.
Okay. They warned us that it wouldn't be clean. I don't have anything else. Dan?
Mr. Chair.
Question, Steve? Mario? No.
No, sir, Mr. Chair, nothing else for me.
Okay. You okay, Bill? Yeah, I guess. All right.
And Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing. I'm not sure if Mr. Eustace had anything else to add or.
Charles, did you want to add anything?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
This is Mel at this end.
I'm sorry, Mario, what did you want to say?
Chair, I believe that was
No,
Mel.
it's Mel.
Well, I've been listening to all the discussion and I was in agreement with Dr. Zerniak regarding the overlay plan on the master plan. I mean, it was kind of a little bit confusing, but we'll just look at it, see how it looks.
Man, I don't know if Chris, you have anything else to say? You wanted to talk about that I-3 designation?
Oh, yeah, yes.
I think you wanted a clarification on the I-3.
Yeah,
At the time, the rail line has been engineered going to Mexico from the UP down the west side of the property, so the west side of the purple. And, you know, over time, it probably will likely go into Mexico and as the bypass to downtown El Paso Juarez. But at the time, there were folks that wanted to do gasoline storage. And the way that the rules worked in Mexico, I guess you had to store it in the U.S. and then bring it across into Mexico. Still a big business, but that's the only reason. Maybe there's a storage of certain materials. I don't like I-3. I'd rather not have any out there. But I guess it's a placeholder until we know what may or may not go there.
well, this is, if we want to put it back to I-2, this is the time to do it. And what staff keeps telling us is that it's there because of something that you said to them. So I'm hearing something different.
Well, no, I mean, that's why it was I-3 was heavy, because of the fuel storage.
But that's not.
It may happen. That rail line will go in someday. And we can always go to I-2 down the road, but it's difficult to go the other way. I think that was the thinking back in, I think that was 2016.
Well, the comment that I made last week was, whatever goes in there, if it's zoned I-3 the way it stands now, we don't get to look at it. Maybe we get to look at the site plan, but as far as the zoning goes, that's a done deal. And that's the highest level of zoning we can put on a piece of property. So we have no idea what might happen there without review. So if we want that opportunity to review that land, we should drop it down to it's not even dropping it. We should put I-2 on it and then see what happens. It doesn't prevent anybody from coming in and asking for an I-3 if they want to go to heavy industry. But at least it would give us a chance to review it. That was my reasoning.
And I agree with that, Dr. Zerniak.
Thanks, Mel. I mean, would you prefer that it stay I-3?
Well, I'm not going to sell that land unless I know, we're not selling any land out there unless we know what the use is. You know, so I'm confident that we'll know what's going to go in there. And of course, I don't want anything there that's going to impact miles around it.
See, the other thing it does, it locks us in to the highest intensity uses. If after this happens, if we put I-3 on it, and for some reason we want to take it to I-2, that's a down zone, and that's very difficult to justify. It's easier to upzone something than it is to downzone it.
That's the first I've heard of that, Mr. Chairman.
It's true. It's absolutely true. If you want to, I mean, you are, although this is not a consideration, you are taking value away from the property because you're reducing the intensity that's allowed. So but that can't be a consideration in a rezone of that type because you're still leaving viable economic benefit to the landowner. So it's easier to give someone an upzone than it is to give them a downzone. And if I was a property owner, I would not want somebody downzoning my property, right?
Right.
So there's that, and then there's the consideration, because it is the highest intensity use, you want as many eyes on that property as possible. And to give the public the chance to comment on it, because it's maybe, I don't know what is it, like 5 miles from the town center?
Yeah.
But that means you could put an industrial plant there as an I3, you could put a rubber plant there, you could put a landfill?
Refinery?
What?
A refinery?
A refinery without any land use review. That bothers me.
I agree. I agree, Dr. Zerniak. Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I think that we're on the right track. And I believe in what you're saying. And I'm sure that a landowner would not like to subjugate themselves to a lower economic price on that property. And I think that the people that are living there would certainly complain regarding that issue,
The other
and
thing,
rightfully so.
the other thing I'm concerned about is that it locks us into an I3. So, and what I would like to see there is as much flexibility as possible. And my big concern, if, I'm trying to remember the border crossing in California, I think it's Mexicali. If you look at the air photo of that crossing, and you look at it 20 years ago, there was almost nothing there. 20 years plus, all the land is developed. And my concern here is that we've got this basically a blank canvas, except for the border crossing where it is. And the lower the zoning, the more flexible we can be in the future. So the I3 locks you in, though. Doesn't give you any choice. You have to, and anybody that looks at this area, if they're thinking about heavy industry, that's where they're going to go. And so if somebody came in, say within the next 5 years, and they wanted to put a major plant there, they may block the right of way from the railroad.
Well, we've kept the easement, so
The
that's not
easement
gonna-
is there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, in our plans, I mean, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles on the west side. So the state has some land there. But we won't do anything with that whole area unless there's a plan. I mean, I don't want a rubber plant out there. I definitely do not want a refinery. I mean, that was discussed way back when. That's not, because the prevailing winds are coming from the west.
Exactly.
And ruins the entire property. And Mexico. It's not a good neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm open to more discussion on this. I think you know what you're doing, so I'd defer to that, really.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
It's always nice to hear from you.
It is.
Anything else, Albert?
No, I don't have anything else.
All right. Does
I like-
anybody have anything else regarding CRUA? Sean, you're okay? Okay.
Morning, Sean.
All right. we
Well,
got-
I have a question for Sean. Dr. Zerniak, I have a question for Sean.
Sorry, Sean. He didn't even know you were here. Go ahead, Mel.
Okay, the question is, are there any contractors up in that area that are actually starting projects, construction projects without requesting permission from the from you as to how they go about grading plans, grubbing, and all of that? Has there ever happened to you, or is it going on? What goes on up there?
No, each one of the commercial projects, Commissioner Costa, goes through a pre-application meeting. So we meet with them with each one of the departments, planning, zoning, fire, engineering, set the parameters. We haven't had any issues. Things are going great out there with each developer. MW Builders is building quite a few. We have Jordan Foster out there. We have another Coast Aluminum. So it's going great.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, Sean, have you had much trouble with illegal construction out there?
No, sir.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? We've got another shot at this next meeting. Administrator?
Dr. Zerniak, on the, for Union Pacific in that area, there's plenty of land there in case they want to expand, am I correct?
I think so.
Okay.
Janine, you want to go on to administrative approvals?
Oh, we don't have anything. 2 weeks.
So do we vote in 2 weeks?
Preferably, yes. You'll be giving a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
So that'll show up on the agenda.
So what is the timeline, Albert?
At your next P&Z meeting, the P&Z will give a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. And we have a tentative date set for April 9th for the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, Mel?
So, well, if we have to push it another week, can we do that in case we have any problems that we have not seen yet?
Albert's looking at the calendar.
If needed, we can probably schedule something also for March 28th.
No, not really. We would have to have a special meeting in between the 14th and the 26th. Because
Okay.
we're tentatively scheduled to go before the Board of County Commissioners on March 26th for permission to publish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, I guess we're,
April 9th meeting.
well, the next meeting, we better be very well prepared because we want to get going forward with it.
Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, okay. Any other staff input? Commission input, anybody? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.